Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Paul Hero program. Thank you so much for being with us. We got very interesting news out of the DOJ yesterday. It looks like they are now going to provide a path for felons, non-violent felons, to get their Second Amendment rights back. This is something that kind of builds on what we saw last week, where now people can buy silencers without having to go through all that paperwork. If you're in, one of the states that has no regulations, obviously there's some blue states that do. Very interesting. Really, in the last 10 days, a lot of good things have happened when it comes to the Second Amendment and the concept of your right to self-defense, your right to keep and bear arms. And just because you get convicted of a felony, we now have the Trump administration essentially saying, hey, we don't think that means you lose your right to defend yourself and your family for the rest of your life. In particular here, it is just non-violent felons. So we're going to talk about that. We got a great show. Also, more about the WNBA. Now we have this mother and daughter that were wearing XXXY shirts, and the WNBA is triggered by that. We're going to talk John Thune. We're going to talk Texas, Ken Paxton, and Tallarico, Infinity Genders Tallarico, and everything else under the sun that we can think about today. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Paul Harrell program. We're broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas. And before I throw it to Rob, I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. Scan the QR code, donate to give our veterans life-enhancing pain relief via red light therapy. Been prescribed by doctors, but the VA won't cover it, and that's where Healing Veterans Project comes in. Scan the QR code, donate monthly, $1, $5, whatever you can, or email me, Paul at healingveteransproject.us. If you are a business owner or know a retail business owner, we want to integrate point-of-sale donations. healingveteransproject.us, and we are proud to partner with the Healing Veterans Project. Rob Spencer, how was the last 22 hours? I guess it's been about 22 hours since I saw you.
Hot. In Arkansas, it's been very, very hot. I thought it was really appropriate. So I packed my bag last night for the gym, because I go to the gym before the show, and I packed my bag. And so how appropriate did I wear my grunt style Second Amendment shall not be infringed.
Yes, that is, yeah.
And we've talked about it on the show. That's pretty plain and simple. Mm-hmm. Shall not be infringed. And, you've got people that were convicted of tax evasion, because they didn't pay their taxes to the government, and who the heck wants to do that? So I can't blame them. But, they, convicted of felony tax evasion and can't have a gun. Now, listen, I mean, there's an argument for dudes that shoot up convenience stores never having guns again. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that when he's shown what he's going to do with a gun. But, I mean, there's so many nonviolent folks out there that are deprived of one of our most sacred things, one of the things that makes us most unique here in the United States, and that is the right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Let's get right to it, but before we do, let's announce what the segment is called. It's now time for From My Cold Dead Hands.
Paul, your Charlton Heston needs a lot more work. All right. I need you to work on that today.
All right. I'm sorry. I need to try. I need to go watch the 10 Commandments.
From my cold dead hands.
Yeah, that's way better.
That's way better.
Yeah.
Pharaoh, let my people go.
No,
that's good.
No. You
Pharaoh.
Okay, that's better. You were like Pharaoh. You're like Pharaoh.
I'm from Arkansas, man. Give me a break. What am I supposed to do?
All right. This is from the Daily Caller. Trump DOJ zaps gun rights restoration for felons back to life. This is something that people have been talking about for a long time. In particular, the organization Gun Owners of America. That Attorney General, now newly confirmed Attorney General Todd Blanche, who, full disclosure, I mean, I don't know why I have to do this. I don't want to jot and tittle everybody, but it just seems, I feel like I need to say, hey, look, there are things that Todd Blanche does that I agree with, and there are some things I don't really fully trust this guy, right? Because I'm waiting for accountability. But man, who knows? I mean, the SPLC thing was huge, and stuff like this I think is really positive, especially kind of when you feel like you're in a desert. In terms of the stuff that the base needs, this is a win for a lot of people where this is their number one issue. Todd Blanche announced Monday that the Justice Department was reviewing a process by which those who lost gun rights due to criminal convictions could have them restored. While federal law provides for a process to restore Second Amendment rights lost after felony conviction or other circumstances, Congress had largely blocked the process since 1992 by refusing to allow the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to spend any federal funds on it. Blanche described the new process as common sense while also respecting Second Amendment rights. He says the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, and the federal government should not permanently deprive Americans of a constitutional right without regard to whether they pose a danger to public safety. This rule establishes a rigorous common sense process that protects the public while giving deserving Americans a real path to restoration. The process is now moved to the Office of the Pardon Attorney as opposed to ATF, according to the release and the new rule that will take effect in 30 days. Everytown and Giffords did not immediately respond to requests for comment from the Daily Caller. The DOJ has released its final regulation reestablishing a formal pathway for nonviolent felons to seek restoration of their Second Amendment rights. And then is this from the, this next quote is, today's development is an exciting next step in the process of ensuring that civil rights for all Americans are respected while only those proven dangerous to society are disarmed. This is from SAC. This is last name is SAC. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find his first name. I'm sure it was up here. Yeah, William Sack. He is the Second Amendment Foundation Senior Director of Litigation. So he says, our review of the final regulation is ongoing, and if any other details require comment, those will be forthcoming. And then Gun Owners of America. So Gun Owners of America, here's their statement. They're thankful that President Trump and AG Blanche are restoring the Second Amendment and ensuring that it is not a second-class right when compared to the other constitutional rights.
Yeah, they're getting win after a win. You know, they just released a statement last week about the silencer ruling as well. Yeah. And so Gun Owners of America is it's a great organization that is really seeing a lot of positive momentum right now. And I believe that most of this stuff is going to be upheld in some way. I mean, of course, you get some lunatic Democrats in there. They're going to try to restrict it because they believe that taking guns away from law-abiding, legal citizens, people that are carrying these firearms, they believe that's the answer to violence. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not that these people that are committing violence with these firearms are breaking the law anyway, right? I mean, most of the time these are illegal guns. They're buying them illegally. They're not going through background checks. They're buying them out of the trunk of someone's car, and then they're going and shooting up a neighborhood. And we, as lawful gun owners here, are getting lumped in with that. And then what we saw too were that, you know, hey, if you're a felon, you know, you're going to lose your gun ownership. And so it's so refreshing to see that somebody is just looking at this with an objective eye and saying, hey, what's the common sense thing here? Okay, just going back to my earlier example, a guy that didn't pay his taxes, is he going to go shoot up a school? I mean, I hope not, but if that's the case, then he had something else going on there. It wasn't about the tax evasion. And anyway, so I love it. The overall theme of it is I love seeing just the return of some common sense on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, heck, we didn't even pull this, but I saw a report this morning that California is restricting the type of tires that you can put on your vehicle.
No way.
Yes. And so there's a thing where if it's got a roll rate greater than such and such, I have 37-inch tires on my big Ford Raptor, and that thing is illegal in California starting in 2029. In fact, the reporting said that 70% of all tires sold today will be declared illegal in 2029 in the state of California.
This is crazy.
And so it just goes along with the theme of these liberal lunatics just continuing to do stupid ass things. And I just don't understand how sensible people don't stand up in those states and say, we're not going to take it anymore. And what we have seen, unfortunately, is Republicans are more complacent when those things are happening. We will vote with our dollar, or we'll protest with our dollars, and we'll protest with our vote. But we're not out in the streets for the most part. I mean, you can throw January 6th in there, but that is a drop in the bucket compared to the summer of love, which was the summer of hate and violence, really is what it was. And you can look at all of those incidents and say, look at these liberals are out there constantly protesting. They're so stupid. They were protesting outside of an ICE facility, and two looking like Hispanic people left and were walking out of the gate, and they're like applauding, "Yay, you're out of there. Thank goodness." And they're like, "Well, they work here. They work here. They don't even know what they're protesting."
Yeah.
And so that is what these idiot regulators are doing in these blue areas, and that is what led to what happened with the Second Amendment anyway, and restricting people that should have never been restricted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I've often wondered why, in terms of, a lot of southern states now, and I was, I would say loosely a part of getting this, the word out, certainly getting the word out to the people back in the, 2013, 14, 15 here in Arkansas when we decriminalized gun possession, right? I mean, in the past, you had to have a permission slip. You had to have the concealed carry. Well, now it's very interesting that I saw a post from one of the activists that I'm friends with, Gary Epperson, here in Arkansas, who was one of the guys that was spearheading this effort back in the day. Mm-hmm. And the revenue generated now by the concealed carry permit process here in Arkansas, because it still works. You can still go get a permit. Mm-hmm. It's generating $1 million. It's costing $800,000 to run. Now, the reason that is because more and more people are deciding to not get one because so many other southern red states, which is basically where people in the South tend to stay in the South. There's only 9 states right now where you have the reciprocity agreement where they don't have constitutional carry. So you've seen this big movement to where everybody is recognizing, hey, the Second Amendment says what it says. I don't need a permission slip from my state to carry open or concealed. And people are realizing that. And even, I don't even know what Texas's laws are right now, but the only thing I looked up was they have the law where, hey, if it's in your car, that's considered an extension of your home, you're good, you're legal, right? And so I always look it up, but basically, especially if I want to go to the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America to vacation, every state I'm basically fine to carry my gun down there.
Yeah.
And so people are realizing this, and so now it's about to get to the point here in Arkansas where this thing is costing more to run, and they need to make changes or whatever. But I've always wondered, I say all that to say this, I've always wondered how we went from, pioneers and settlers or the Wild West or whatever, to even in southern states believing that that in order for us to carry a gun, I had to go check in with the government, pass the test, and get a card to defend myself.
Yeah.
And I think it all comes down to the Firearms Act of 1935, the National Gun Act, or whatever that they call that, which is where they got all the silencer, eventually got all of the suppressor regulations as well. And that somehow psychologically eventually altered our parents and our grandparents to essentially say, yeah, well, you need to have a permit in order to carry a gun because we're a civilized society now. And it's kind of interesting to see how that has all been flipped on its head. Now, I don't know why exactly. You could say maybe Barack Obama was a big part of that. I think a lot of these states went full constitutional carry, started moving that way in the Obama years because Obama was a socialist or a communist or, was a big
see
government.
It on the horizon.
Yeah, and every time, remember the runs on gun stores? Like every time Obama would say, when they tried to pull the false flag operation at the border and blame gun store owners that were hip to it, they were, that whole Brian Terry thing where he got shot by a gun that was being traced back they were trying to frame gun store orders on the southern border to take away Second Amendment rights. Everybody went and bought their AR-15s and everything else.
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of spearheaded it. But it's just interesting that you can come back from the brink, is what I'm trying to say. You can change the mentality of America on all of these issues, not just the Second Amendment. Because
yeah, well, and we keep seeing this stuff, and so we've got these amendments, and so as I was saying, shall not be infringed. I want to clarify something. I fully believe that there was many conspiracies there that were actually true for January 6th. I'm just saying that that's what the left was using. I just want to clarify some of the comments there when I said, "Hey, well,
you getting some heat?"
Well, no, just people speaking, and that's why I love our comments, and that's why I monitor them throughout the show. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I steal your ideas. I try to give you credit for it, but I get on my rants. Going, when I'm fired up about something.
That's good,
but excuse me. But what we found, and this was supposed to go by the wayside with that recent Supreme Court decision, and I forget what it was, but it was taking away the regulatory ability of these.
The Chevron doctrine.
The Chevron, thank you. That was taking away the regulatory abilities of these agencies. So yes, we do have the Second Amendment, but the ATF was finding ways to skirt it. They were finding ways around it. There's really countless examples of the ATF coming and showing up on your door after you've made large firearm purchases, and I'm talking about multiple firearms, because in their mind, people buy guns one at a time. And I would say that that's probably mostly the case, but there's nothing saying I can't go buy 4 firearms. Why, if I'm a legal gun owner, if I've got the legal right to own them, what if I'm using, as we do here in the South, as soon as I get my taxes in, I'm going to go get something nice.
That is what people say.
That's what they do. I'm going to catch up on my bills when I get my taxes in. That's what I hear from my renters all the time. I'll catch up with you, Mr. Rob. Anyway, but basically, I could go buy these, and the ATF was just showing up and just said, hey, we just need to check to make sure these aren't a straw purchase. Well, how the hell does that jive with the Second Amendment? Yeah. Shall not be infringed. Why do you need to check the serial numbers? You are a person that says you're a law enforcement
It's basically
officer.
like, well, you're buying this gun, and we think you might do something illegal with it, so we got to check. It's like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works,
Sorry,
man. That's not how it works.
You need to catch me in an actual crime.
There you go.
After I purchase the gun, if you want to do something.
Which comes full circle, and we're going to talk about it later, that's why people are griping so much and complaining about these flock cameras. It's how invasive can we be here?
Yep, and they definitely want to track us at gun ranges and everything else.
But I need to follow up on that, and we'll do it off air, and then we'll bring some maybe some updates about it. But the Chevron thing, I thought was supposed to end some of this BS, and we're still seeing some of it, even in a red administration.
Yeah. Here is. I want to point out what you brought up, because this is fascinating to me. Any kind of news. You heard this on the way in this morning. California regulators approved new rules limiting what replacement tires can be used on your car.
Yeah, listen to this BS.
So California regulators on Monday approved new rules that will restrict what tires you can buy when it's time to replace them on your car. In a unanimous vote, the California Energy Commission voted to adopt new rules that will phase out the sale of replacement tires that don't meet certain energy efficiency standards. This ultimately is about protecting consumers. Of course, they always say that. No, this is ultimately about public safety.
And so they're talking about replacement tires, and my guess they're doing that so that it doesn't affect the car manufacturers as much, but it sure as hell affects the tire manufacturers if they know that initial set of tires that they make can only be used for 50,000 miles or whatever it is, whatever that tire mile life is, and then that person's going to be needing replacement tires. And so, I mean, I did some really expensive tires on my truck, but that's what I chose to do, and thank goodness I'm in Arkansas. But the state of California is loony.
These people are idiots, and I won't be surprised if they come out and say, we've got a whole brand new idea.
Yeah.
Here. What about asphalt tires and rubber roads?
There you go.
Asphalt tires, rubber roads, it'll save the environment. I don't know. That probably wouldn't.
It's just insane. Well, here, it was like when they were giving incentives for everybody to get solar panels. And then the electricity companies were complaining because basically they had a blank on their grid now. Like, so my house, your house, Johnny's house, you get solar panels. And so now it's my house buying electricity, a blank on the grid. So they're not getting any money there. And Johnny's get it. Well, what if we both get it? Now there's 3 blanks. You get what I'm saying? And so what they did is they started saying, okay, yeah, but what we're going to do is we're going to charge you a tax for having those solar panels, and those funds are going to go to fund municipal electricity because, it's not fair. It's not fair that you're getting that break. And you're like, you told me to do it. You told me. Yeah. And in California, the same thing. They were drilling wells, water to get wells. And then they said, if you drill a well, you're going to get taxed because you're no longer buying public water. They're doing that in the state of California. Yeah. Who the hell would live in California with that crap?
I think on that solar panel thing, now correct me if I'm wrong, you may know about this more than me, but it seems like some people are now being approached with the solar panel thing from the power companies. Like, hey,
sure,
do this, put the solar panels on your roof, but we get the energy.
Yeah,
like the power company gets the energy, you get a break. In the long run, it works out. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, my question was, I was like, so if my power goes out and I need to draw off these solar panels, can I do it? Like, can I run my individual house on it? And the answer you get is quite ambiguous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Thinking,
it's
what's
always
the point?
It's all theory, yes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this is it's nuts.
This is what happens when liberals get in charge. Overall, I mean, what the hell? If you can get frustrated with the Republicans, you can get frustrated with this administration, you can get frustrated with the lack of progress in certain things. But my God, they're way better than Democrats. At least we're sane for the most part on our side. It's going to be really interesting what happens over the next couple months. We've got big-time primaries, and we're going to talk about Florida. Is Byron Donalds going to be the next governor there? I think that's really cool. You can agree or disagree with Byron Donalds, but he's a conservative, and I think that's a great thing. But, how much momentum are we going to carry into these midterms? Because it's the case of Sarah Huckabee Sanders is saying it right now. It's sane versus crazy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Speaking of crazy, it's now time for Trans Women Are Men. So I want to say our last couple of Trans Women Are Men segments have been all about the WNBA. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Here it is. A mom and daughter were told to cover up their XXXY shirts or leave the arena right in the middle of overtime. Casey and Annie Thomason say a security guard told them another fan found their shirts offensive and gave them a choice: put on Atlanta Dream Wellness and Health Night shirts or be escorted out. Biology and science is offensive, Casey asked, before the pair reluctantly covered up so they could watch the final minutes of Indiana's 95-91 victory. There you see the mother and daughter wearing these shirts. And this is obviously all sparked by Sophie Cunningham because she's decided to say, hey, look, we got to protect women's sports. Here is the two of them. I think this is an audio clip of them. Listen.
And we were made to cover up our XXXY shirts at this game.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes. They gave us shirts. They gave us T-shirts during overtime and told us we had to leave.
And this is for the girls.
Or cover our shirts. This just happened.
Where were you sitting?
Floor
4-3 row
C.
Yeah.
Third row of floor 3.
And how much were your seats?
$1,000 each around.
Yeah, and we did nothing. Like we were just sitting there. I didn't make signs. I wanted to make signs, but I didn't. I did nothing.
They made us put our shirts on.
I did notice during the game on the Jumbotron, they put up a woman wearing a shirt that said protect trans rights or something.
She's the one who
told on
because she was made to zip up her jacket.
So she also had to zip up her jacket?
But
Yeah,
I think that's
But that's bullshit too. She shouldn't have to.
But they put her shirt on the Jumbotron.
I know.
It's almost like the message was made and they said now zip it up to make it seem like they're consistent.
Yeah.
But they never were.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
never
And why
Okay.
did you spend so much on tickets? Why was it important for you to be here today?
to support
Sophie
Sophie
Cunningham.
Cunningham and to support women in women's sports because it's just common sense.
And what's the relation here?
That's my
mom.
daughter.
And are you an athlete?
I used to be until I had a bunch of knee surgery.
What sport?
I did all sorts here. I did soccer. I did all of that.
Yes.
And did this issue ever come up? Like, did a biological man ever try to play against?
No,
We're from here, so it hasn't happened here.
a lot.
But I can't believe that just happened
Yeah, that's
in
shocking.
Atlanta, Georgia.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow, this is crazy to me. I mean,
Well,
I
listen, Georgia may be. I believe Georgia is solidly a red state. The only reason that they've gotten some blue representatives is the massive fraud. I'm going to say it again: the massive fraud that happens in Fulton County. Yeah, you are all liars and cheaters, and you have stolen elections.
Fulton
Kiss
County.
my rear.
fraudsters.
Fraud, sue me.
I find it interesting, though, and I'm just going to say this, like, I know you follow sports more than I follow sports. I'm about to follow sports the most I follow sports in a year's time because college football is going to kick off, and I do enjoy watching college football, right? And so, but I guess I just didn't I don't really realize the cultural phenomenon that Sophie Cunningham is. I get it.
$1,000 a seat.
All right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, why are you guys here?" "Oh, we're here to support Sophie." I'm like, that is crazy to
Boom.
me. I just had no idea. I just had no idea she
Right.
was that influential.
Well,
I had no idea.
XXXY Athletics, I believe it was founded by, or at least in partnership with Riley Gaines.
Yeah. She's got that brand.
You know,
yeah.
if you don't remember Riley Gaines, which I would imagine all of our listeners know who Riley Gaines is, but just in case you haven't, she was the a swimmer, the collegiate swimmer, who lost to Leah Thomas, a biological male who was swimming against women.
In a Speedo, right?
Yes,
Or was she in an actual?
Did you say she?
Was he in an actual? I don't know.
Oh no, yeah, no. He was in the proper attire, but
Like
he
the
has
female-
no
the female
boot.
swimsuit?
Like literally, his only difference
That
that you could tell is just that he grew his hair out.
Okay.
that was literally
I
the only.
couldn't
thing.
remember that.
He
Okay,
had-
sorry, I didn't mean to call.
Yeah, he didn't look
him
like a
she.
female in any other manner there.
Yeah.
So then, they were famously was ranked like in the 400s in men's swimming, switched over to women and was number one.
Number one.
Yeah, right, and that's where it comes from. But anyway, these young ladies were there supporting Sophie Cunningham. Why? Because this is exactly why we want women. I want my daughter. I hope she finds idols and people to, not idols on this earth. God comes
Right.
first, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like people that they
Role
look up
models.
to. Yes,
Role
role
models.
models. People that they look up to, and I want them looking up to the Sophie Cunninghams of the world. Okay, I don't want them looking up to the commissioner of the WNBA who says, well, if you know what the difference between a man and a woman is, I wish you would just tell me. Lord, have mercy. What did we do? Where did we go? And it just seems like the WNBA just keeps stepping on their own toes. Now, they have since released a statement, and I mentioned this to you off air, and all it said is, we have learned of an incident that happened there, and then they go, that should not have happened. And they just move on. They didn't say anything else. And I thought, compare that to how strongly they're coming out against these male, NBA players now declaring for the WNBA. We're not about hate. We are all about inclusivity. Really? That's their answer. This long statement, and their response to this is, that shouldn't have happened.
Isn't it so strange? A lot of times politics does stay out of sports. Maybe that's why they're so. Of course, we know that's not true. I mean, the institutional leagues of professional sports, they always parrot political messaging and they try to pass it off as apolitical. I mean, we know that. But isn't it odd that you now have a situation where you have people coming to see the same team? I'm assuming the person that was there that said, that had the shirt, protect trans kids or whatever that shirt said, I'm assuming they're rooting for the same team. Maybe not. But let's assume they are rooting for the same team. Is it not very strange that you've got fans that are like they're rooting for Sophie Cunningham, but then you may have like another fan there who's rooting for Sophie Cunningham to get hit in the face and fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I find that a very interesting phenomenon. It's like it's a tipping point.
To me, that right there should be scorned and talked about, because when you are attending an athletic, like anytime I go to an Arkansas Razorback game, I usually leave in tears. But
Yeah.
but I'm a grown man just bawling, because there we go. But anyway, when I go to an Arkansas, I am rooting for Arkansas, and I am rooting against whoever they're playing. I have no problem with who they're playing. I may not like the coach. If you were, last year when we play Ole Miss, and I'm like, I don't really care for Lane Kiffin, so I'm rooting against Lane Kiffin. But it's only because I want my team to win, right?
I think the whole country's rooting against Lane
Well,
Kiffin.
there's except for them, down in Baton Rouge, and Louisiana. Excuse me. But that's the way competition is. And you might go, especially if you're a young lady, you're going to go to these WNBA games and look at it. I mean, really close seats, $1,000 a seat, when they were literally giving away WNBA tickets a few years ago. Yeah. Why do you not stand behind the Caitlin Clarks and the Sophie Cunninghams of the WNBA? Why do you keep putting them on an island by themselves, like there's no one supporting them? Yeah. People are paying $1,000 just to see her. Mm-hmm. Really, I wouldn't pay $1,000 a ticket to go to a basketball game. But I love that these ladies are doing it, and the WNBA is getting it all wrong. They keep stepping on their own foot. We don't want to keep talking about them every day, because that means that they're probably doing stuff the right way. Sorry, I didn't put my phone on silent.
Is the WNBA, these are not publicly traded organizations, right? It's all privately owned, right? There's no way to short the WNBA and like a hedge fund comes in, because if they were a publicly traded company and a hedge fund wanted to do what they tried to do to like GameStop or what they did do to Blockbuster before its time, if you could essentially go in there and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to short that. We're going to get the men in the league. We're going to get the NBA G team. We're going to let them in the league. The ratings are going to go up, but it'll eventually destroy the league, and the WNBA will just go away, and the hedge fund will make out like bandits.
Well, listen, so I have 3 children. 2 of them are daughters, and one is a son. And as a dad who has daughters, I'm rooting for the WNBA. I want that to be a good thing. I want them to have oh, that's really cool. Look at these people that are like me, that are, professional basketball players. That's a good thing. I love the popularity surging. I just wish they would stay out of their own way with this ridiculous identity politics BS. Live in the real world. Live in the sane world.
Yeah. I'll just add, if they let biological men play in the WNBA, the ratings would go up.
Will you stop it, Paul? I know that they will, but they're trying to get.
I know, but that's what's so funny. Yeah. Don't you see? That's what's so funny.
I don't want
nobody watches them unless they get a breakout star here or there, and whatever. But people would really watch to see men. It's the same. It's the equivalent of when they threw the sex toys out. More people were watching the WNBA. There was a surge
because they wanted to see what color the next one was going to be.
There were bets. People were betting what color.
Oh, I remember.
And you could go on the betting markets.
Neon green.
And I'm telling you, if they let the men play, which I'm not saying they should, because obviously women's sports and men's sports should be separate. But I'm just letting you know, it is a fact, and it is a hilarious one, that this whole league that exists because we're trying to make men and women, they got to have their sport, we got to have their sport. And yet if men came in to compete against women, everybody would watch. It would be so ridiculous. They could not look away, and their ratings would go up.
Well, just to clarify, I'll say that the WNBA, as I've mentioned on the show before, they are subsidized by the NBA, and they have lost money every year that they have been a league. Last year was their closest to breaking even, because let's just be honest, it was the Caitlin Clarks of the world. And, Death and Decay 8187 here says in our comments, if it has to be subsidized by the NBA, it should not exist. And I think I agree with you on certain respects, but given the way that they are trending toward a league that could be profitable. Okay, and if that is the case, then I'm all for it, man. I love sports. Sports and politics are my thing. And if there are more professional leagues, and as a girl dad, like as something that my daughters can look up to, then that's what I want. But I don't want men playing. The only reason I'm rooting for these two guys that are declaring is because I hope that is the beginning of the end of the ridiculousness.
Yeah,
right.
And it should be.
Yes,
it should be. You've essentially asked them, "Hey, define what a woman is," and the NBA comes back and it's just like, "Not going to do it. I refuse. Not going to do it."
Yeah.
Literally, NBA's response is, "Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil." Just like put your head in the sand, and we're not going to denounce the religion of the left, which is
right.
woke, and it's a sex religion, sex religion, and they refuse to denounce it, and that in and of itself may destroy
right.
the league, honestly.
Well,
So,
I mean, it's got a lot of work to do. You know, you can't hang your hat on, Caitlin Clark was the only thing really pushing things last year. You can't really just hang your hat on one player in even in Michael Jordan's heyday. There were superstars in the NBA in the 80s and 90s. You had Magic, you had Bird.
Yeah.
You had all of these incredible players, the Hakeem Olajuwons of the world, the Shaquille O'Neals, all of that. And so there were stars in the league, but Michael Jordan was the brightest star.
greatest player ever made or
ever. If anybody that thinks that Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest of all time, you're really mistaken. I'm just going to say that politely. You're just mistaken. But my whole point of it, I want to reiterate this. The WNBA is trending in the right direction. Where we've talked about it, how they're having to switch arenas from 8,000 seat arenas to 25,000 seat arenas because they're selling out. We've got courtside seats here for $1,000 a ticket, folks. They're trending in the right direction. They need more stars, but they need to quit stepping on their own foot. Now I'm being repetitive, but that's my point.
All right, so in other news, we're going to take a look at the primary race, and not primary race, the general election in Texas between Ken Paxton, Republican, who ousted John Cornyn. Of course, we know this. And, infinity gender James Tallarico.
This guy's a moron.
All right, so here's the deal. And a lot of people predicted this, that Cornyn and his money tied to the, Senate, Senate fund, Senate Republican fund, really just the uniparty, or not uniparty, but the RNC apparatus, Freudian slip there, would essentially take their ball and go home, right? Mm-hmm. Here's a guy, John Cornyn, he's mad. The people that make money off of John Cornyn are mad, and so they're not going to be as enthusiastic Ken Paxton supporters because, shocker, they really don't care. Right? They'd rather just watch the world burn and condemn Texas to live under Democrat rule because the people rejected their advice. They said, no, we don't like John Cornyn. We don't think he actually cares for us. We don't think he actually loves the people. We think he says that he does, but then he hates us with his actions.
Yeah.
So Ken Paxton's the guy. There's a lot of people that predicted, though, that this would happen, take the ball and go home. And here's some evidence of that. This headline that James Tallarico has now poached a Cornyn staffer, which is like, have you really poached anybody? The guy's not going to have a job.
You found a guy that was looking for a job?
Found a guy that was looking for a job. But cross-party hires are rare. But the move could show the Senate Democratic campaign is hoping to reach out to Republicans in reliably red Texas. By Igor Bobik. Texas Democrat Senate candidate James Tallarico's campaign hired a staffer from Republican Senator John Cornyn. Jacob Smith, who worked for Cornyn for 5 years as a deputy legislative director and policy advisor, is taking on the role of deputy policy director for Tallarico's campaign. Now, I want all of you out there to just stop and think for a moment. And I want you to imagine that you, as a human being, are working for John Cornyn, who is a rhino. Maybe, he's not as... maybe you even kind of deride the far right of the party. But let's just say that you are a Republican and you're working for Republicans. I want you to ask yourself, in what world, in good conscience, could you ever go work for the Democrats?
If you're a Republican, then you're not. I mean,
exactly.
True.
And so it just confirms what we know about a lot of these rhinos, is that their staffers are just hired guns who are secretly communists. And I don't even know who Jacob Smith is. But if you're going to go work for Infinity Gender Tallarico, who, likes to say that the woke sex religion can be found inside the pages of the Bible, then you are a godless communist as far as I'm concerned. And I have no problem saying that. And you've been embedded in the Cornyn, no wonder John Cornyn votes the way he does with advisors and staffers like you. That's not to excuse John Cornyn, because I think he's the same. But this just goes to show you, and look, I know, people are taking a job, but this is not like some lateral move where you're going from working, John Cornyn, I'm going to go work for Lisa Murkowski's office now, or I'm going to go work for Mitch McConnell's office and, be one of the guys in, Weekend at Bernie's propping him up. That's not what this is. Although it probably, arguably could be said that it's the same thing.
Well,
but this is just proof, ladies and gentlemen, that so many of these rhinos, they're not even. I mean, I know we say they're Republican in name only, but it's way worse than that. They're just Democrats, man. They really do believe in the principles of the other side. So,
and I've seen countless posts, honestly, on X, and I'm sure you all have too, that just says I'm a Republican, but for the first time, I'm voting for a Democrat, and it shares something from this loon bag who thinks that God is non-binary and that transgenderism and homosexuality and all of that stuff, every bit of that is affirmed in the Bible. Okay. Let's just start with the God is non-binary, and you're just like, okay, wait a minute. So what are all the references to our Father in heaven, right? Like what my father. Like what are we talking about here? You're rewriting the Bible. And I know we've got a segment later, about women clergy, but we've just got these leftist activists who are on the bench. And I don't know how many of them have a church in Texas, but can you imagine if you're going to a true conservative Texas church and you're voting for James Tallarico, you're probably not telling anybody.
Yeah.
And you're probably sitting there disagreeing with everything the pastor says, which means that you need a heart change because you are walking in with your own ideological agenda, and you are trying to shape religion.
Be your own God, basically.
Yeah, you're trying to shape the religion around it so that you are correct, so that you're right. And we know that you're not.
Yep.
Because we live in the real world, and we know what the Bible says.
It's like, well, the Bible says this, and then the response, Eric was saying this the other day before the show. Yeah, but I feel like this.
That's right.
It's like, well, you disagree. I mean, it's like so much of the time when Christians get accused of judging other people, it's like, guys, this is not. I'm just telling you what the Word of God says. I'm telling you what God thinks of these issues. It's really not about me. I'm just trying to be faithful and tell you what He thinks about this. But listen to this. Listen to his statement. This is this Jacob guy.
Before you read that, real quickly, Kit Kat Mar had a great comment here, and I haven't heard Bongino say this, but this is awesome. Like Bongino always says on Capitol Hill, there are Republicans who are actually Democrats, but there are no Democrats who are actually Republicans.
This is true.
That's believable. People that say they're Republicans because
there's not an example of this on the other side.
It's not. No,
I mean, the closest you could get with Joe Manchin, but still,
Joe Manchin. But he caucused with the Democrats most of the time, unless they were trying to do something stupid.
Yeah, like in the filibuster, which they're going to do. Anyway, he says, I've worked for Republicans like Senator John Cornyn my entire career, but this year I'm proud to be joining James Tallarico's campaign. Instead of playing partisan politics, that's exactly what you're doing, by the way. Instead of playing partisan politics, Tallarico speaks to the needs of everyday people who day in and day out work too hard for too little. In the Senate, James will fight to lower costs for all 31 million Texans, whether they're Republican, Democrats, or independents, so that Texans of all ages have a fighting chance at the American dream of starting a family, owning a home, and leaving a little behind for their children. So then he talks about Ken Paxton as being the most corrupt, self-dealing politician in Texas, and blah, 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 blah. So this is what Jeremy Carl wrote about this. And by the way, Jeremy Carl has an excellent book called The Unprotected Class about anti-white bias, and you need to read it if you haven't. He writes, Paxton will win the race, but even if he lost by 30, everything that has happened with Cornyn and his team since the election has vindicated the position of those conservatives who were determined to remove him from office.
Boom. That's a mouthful right there from Jeremy Carl, but that says it all. That says it all. We saw the snake in the grass that was Cornyn and Cassidy down in Louisiana, and these people are rightfully so gone. And now, instead of just going quietly into the night and saying, picking up your toys and going home, okay? No, that's not what he's doing. He's actively working behind the scenes to thwart Ken Paxton. Do you want a person like James Tallarico? Set your hurt feelings aside, Cornyn. Your hurt feelings, the ones that just tell you they were so mean to me. I lost my job. They're so mean to me.
Yeah, the voters told me no.
Yeah, the voters said no. Ken Paxton, he's not a good guy, I tell you. But I would say, and most conservatives would argue, I would say every true conservative would argue, that no matter what Ken Paxton's faults are, and every person watching this right now and every person riding and on Capitol Hill, we all have faults. There was one perfect person who walked the face of this planet, and he ain't any of us. So I will say that we have those faults, but Ken Paxton is a hell of a lot better, faults or not, than James Tallarico. And let me ask you this really quickly. Do you think that a 5'8", 130-pound guy who's 37 years old, representing the state of Texas. When you think of Texas, I think of ranchers. You got the liberals in Austin, and, you've got all the corruption that goes on in Houston and all of that stuff. But when I think of Texas, I think of, like, ranchers. I think of people that are what we call country strong, And I'm looking at a guy like James Tallarico. It looks like a strong wind would blow him over. And I'm like, is this the person you want to rally behind? As a man?
Mm-hmm. Well,
no, thank you.
They're just doing Beto O'Rourke 2.0. He was the same way. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s. Here's another story from the Western Journal. Jonathan Jones writes that a Texas state legislator called Democratic Senate candidate James Tallarico the most liberal candidate in the state's history when reacting to allegations that the latter embellished his first story as a lawmaker. The Western Journal previously noted Tallarico suspiciously predicted that he might be mistaken for an intern after he was first elected to the State House in 2018. Twice after that election, Tallarico said he feared he might be mistaken for a support staffer when reporting for his first day at work, to your point, because he's
a feeble man.
Yeah, he's a child. Excuse me. He says on November 20th, 2018, Tallarico told KVUE-TV he feared that he would be stuffed into a locker and that he might be confused for a lower-level staffer after taking his oath. Weeks later, he told the Austin American-Statesman, my number one goal is to not be confused for an intern. So he was definitely on this talking point.
Yeah.
People whom the Western Journal spoke to about the apparent prognostication were not at all surprised that Tallarico did, in fact, later claim twice that he was teased on his first day of work and mistaken for an intern. Per one of the sources, Tallarico has a penchant for being dishonest. In a comment to the Western Journal, Republican State Rep Brian Harrison said, quote, James relies on dishonesty because he's the most liberal statewide candidate in Texas history, and his entire campaign is based on covering up his radical past policy positions and a pathetic attempt to con Texans into believing he shares their values. Weeks after Tallarico shared his apparent anxiety about being mistaken for an intern, he claimed that Capitol parking garage attendants quizzed him about his job status.
They were being mean to me.
A January 8th, 2019 Texas Tribune profile was published the same day Tallarico said he reported to work as a legislator for the first time with the State House in session. One of them told me I look like an intern, he claimed, of two garage attendants.
A
month later on a program, The Trey Blocker Show, Tallarico explained the story. He said, the guys in the parking garage gave me a little bit of grief on my first day, saying I looked more like an intern than a legislator. Tallarico added, but I think that's a compliment. The particularly the particularity
How is that a compliment?
of the prediction, and it's
They called me fat and ugly, but I think that was a compliment.
the particularity of the prediction and its apparent coming to fruition follow a particular pattern for people who know or have been around Talrico. Essentially, this guy it really shows you this guy has been groomed for this, and he's got allies in the media that have been ready to to publish this stuff. But it's little things like that where he's actually trying to psyop his constituents and the people of Texas, and that's really what his whole campaign is. It's a giant psychological operation that I think it ultimately will fail.
Sure. Well, I mean, I hope that it will. I hope that, what you want to call it, rational Texans come out and vote en masse against him. But I just go back to my ultimate test, my ultimate example, okay? Now, I'm a helicopter dad, so I'm really not letting anybody babysit my children. But if I didn't do that, would you allow a creepy weirdo like Talarico to babysit your child? Of course you wouldn't.
No.
You would actually you'd actually get in front of your children if this guy walked up on you, like on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
You'd get in front of your children so that there was no risk that he would brush up against them. He's a creep, and his policies are ridiculous. The things that he says are ridiculous. And if the people that are going to go out and vote for this man, I just think that there needs to be some sort of mental test sometimes on voting. Are you a loon? And I would say that at least 3/4 of the Democratic Party is going to be disqualified.
I think you're right about that. Folks, it's now time for our next segment. It's called Red Tape Tyrants. All right, so for this edition of Red Tape Tyrants, we go to this story from, what is this? Is this the Daily Signal? Okay, Daily Signal has this. It was published also over at the Liberty Daily. John Thune. We've got to talk about John Thune for a second because, he's the guy that gives us all these excuses about all the red tape is why the people can't get what they want. This headline from DeRoy Murdoch: Thune flubs Save America Act, flees for 5-week break. Now,
say that 5 times fast.
Yeah. That.
That was a good one, Paul.
That's a dad joke.
Oh, God, it's awful.
Okay, so headline: Does Senator John Thune secretly want... This is actually not the headline. This is just the beginning of the story. Does John Thune secretly want Republicans to lose the midterm elections? Now, let's just stop there. I think the answer to that is yes.
I've been saying it for a year.
You have?
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, that I think a tremendous amount of fundraising comes when you are the minority party. But I also believe that there's a certain level of, hey, I'm just going to wait out Trump. I'm just going to wait him out. Get somebody in there a little bit more sensible. The third option, and probably the most logical option, is that his strings are being pulled and he is being told what to do by the big money lobbyists, by the big deep state working behind the scenes that says, this is what you'll do, John Thune.
Yep.
Okay? And because nothing he has done makes sense. We know they've already said what they're going to do. We already know. There's no Joe Manchin to stop the Democrats from nuking the filibuster when they get back in power. There's nothing that's going to stop them. Okay? The only thing that would stop them for the next 2 years is Donald Trump vetoing all the BS that Democrat Congress, if they controlled the House and the Senate, would send up to him. Mm-hmm. That would be the only thing that would stop them. But whatever the reason, whether it's fundraising or whatever, it just sure as hell seems like John Thune wants to lose in November, because the only win, and there was a huge win, big beautiful bill was a huge win, okay, but that's all that we've got going into these midterms. In terms of legislation, we've got a lot of Trump's executive orders, but if you really want to build some momentum, if you really want to change this country forever, then you need to codify these executive orders, because what you're doing right now is you're just like, well, yeah, we'll fix it for a few years, and then when the Democrats take the presidency back, if they take the presidency back, then they're just going to override every one of these.
This article says, rather than pass the SAVE Act and other key legislation, the majority leader adjourned the Senate for a 36-day break. Save America Act's absence makes Capitol Hill even steeper to climb if Republicans hope to maintain control after November. Thune's less than flaccid leadership rivals his lassitude. His work ethic lags that of a Skid Row panhandler. It takes real energy to rattle a tin cup all day long. Too bad Thune lacks such stamina. Quote, the Democrats bear a fair share of the blame for being the obstacle Thune has to overcome, observed Cleta Mitchell, senior legal fellow of the Conservative Partnership Institute. They shouldn't get a pass. Mitchell is right. If Democrats did not despise every Republican election integrity venture as viscerally as vampires loathe garlic, Thune might have passed the SAVE Act already, but Democrat ferocity is a given. Thune's job is somehow to find enough mallets and wooden stakes to neutralize the Senate's Dracula caucus. This is where Thune's listlessness and lack of imagination aggravate Republicans. Quote, Thune is an empty suit when it comes to figuring out how to navigate the Senate, Mitchell adds. It's shocking how poor a leader he is. He really does not have a creative bone in his body. Now, this assumes, so this is two things. The first question is, does he want to lose? The second question is he just incompetent?
Maybe he's just incompetent.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's the case, but you're left to wonder because of his actions.
But Thune is doing, Mitch McConnell, I feel like, would be doing the exact same thing. I really do. I think if Mitch McConnell were, of the Mitch McConnell of old, I still don't. I think he would be giving us excuses as well, because Thune is essentially just a younger McConnell. He was a disciple of McConnell.
Sure.
He's doing what he was taught to do, and that is to listen to the donors and not actually represent the American people.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because if the Republicans hold the Senate, if they hold the Senate, will they have new leader nominations and appointments? Will they do that, or do they just keep rolling?
Yeah, Trump has not come out and endorsed Thune, if that's the case. He has not come out and said, yeah, Thune should get the nod again.
And I would not hold my breath until he does.
Conversely, the deceptively unassuming House Speaker Mike Johnson turns out to be a shrewd legislative strategist. He has used the rules to ease Senate adoption of SAVE Act. Johnson's chamber passed SAVE thrice. In February, they so amended an existing Senate-passed bill. This avoided a filibuster, and a mere 51-48 vote commenced debate. Johnson also implemented my suggestion, staple SAVE to multiple Senate-bound measures. This included the National Defense Authorization Act, featuring a 6.2% average pay hike for Americans' intrepid GIs. Johnson also forwarded a Reconciliation 3.0 resolution with SAVE implementation funds. This $10 billion allocation makes it tougher for Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough to reject SAVE as insufficiently budgetary. Then Democrat leader Harry Reid of Nevada appointed McDonough in 2012. We are dealing with Harry Reid's parliamentarian. Thune could pass the SAVE Act by daring Democrats and 4 GOP holdouts to torpedo Pentagon reauthorization just to stop proof of citizenship for voter registration, limits on mail-in ballots, clean voter rolls, and photo ID at the polls. Reconciliation 3.0 would give senators another 50-vote path to pass SAVE, but rather than advance that proposal, Thune excused the Senate for 5 weeks until September 14th, the Monday after Labor Day. The House returns August 31st, 2 weeks sooner. This is parliamentary malpractice. Quote, I don't understand how Republican senators can be dismissed and go home when we have such vital, needed legislation pending in the Senate, particularly the Save America Act, laments Hans von Spakovsky, senior legal fellow at the Edwin Meese III Institute for the Rule of Law. That legislation is essential to preserving not only the integrity of U.S. elections, but protecting our democratic republic. The failure to pass it is one of the most grievous mistakes made by Republicans in decades, and they will bear the dire consequences in future elections. It goes on, the article, if Republicans lose the House and or Senate, Thune will bear ample blame. Lazily fumbling SAVE leaves the Democrat voter theft machine ready for action.
Paul, let me give you the smoking gun. I'm going to give you the smoking gun that John Thune is working against Donald Trump. And I did have somebody in our comments ask why Trump says nice things about John Thune.
That's a great question, by the way. Yeah. That is a great question.
It is.
Because it's very frustrating.
It is. And I wonder if it's more Donald Trump trying to say, hey, I don't want to piss Thune totally off because, I mean, he's not going to sign anything. He's not going to put anything through. He's got that power. Like, obviously, the president has with the power with these executive orders and all of that stuff. But when you're talking about long-lasting legislation, writing these laws, putting them into place, that's got to go through all three chambers here, or all three sections of the legislative and the executive branch. But anyway, here's the smoking gun, folks. Tune in. Here is the smoking gun. John Thune is working against Donald Trump. And if you need evidence, look no further than recess appointments.
Yeah.
And the fact that Donald Trump is the only president that has had a majority in the Senate of the same party, right? And not been allowed to do recess appointments. Right now, even on their 5 weeks, they're calling it into session every few
pro forma sessions.
Pro forma sessions to restrict Donald Trump from making recess appointments. Do you know how important that is to shaping our judicial branch, especially? I mean, there's a lot of recess appointments that are made, but I focus on those judicial branch appointments because that's putting these federal judges into these places where they're going to be needed when the liberals are back in charge, but they're losing their damn minds again with stuff, right? That's where these federal judges, I mean, we see what these liberal federal judges have done to Donald Trump's executive orders, right? We're seeing that right now. That's how important placing these in when you have open seats all across this country and Donald Trump can appoint them without them having to go through this long confirmation process, and you're restricting it.
Yep.
That is our smoking gun that you are 100% unequivocally working against the President of the United States. Tell me any different.
I can't argue with that at all. The last thing I'll say, they have a quote from Scott Pressler here. Meanwhile, Save's paralysis and Thune's lackadaisia will disgust and demoralize the GOP base. Quote, how do I make the case as a conservative activist trying to drum up support for Republicans when, as the majority controlling all three branches of government, we are incapable of delivering the very campaign promises that elected the majority we have today? End quote. That's Early Vote Action founder Scott Pressler. How do I make the case to elect Republicans when our Senate majority leadership won't deliver what 84% of Americans want? And you combine that inaction with the conflict in the Middle East,
correct,
with gas prices, you combine all of that, and it is a total recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Now, that's the reality of the situation. I still think it's going to be competitive, but I do know this: without the SAVE Act in all of these House races, this is the thing. Without the SAVE Act in all of these House races that are close, if it's close, they cheat and we lose. Every single time.
You cannot find me, if there are 30 House races that are close, you cannot find me more than one or two that go the Republicans' way in the bottom of the ninth. Every time.
Right.
Every cycle. The other 28, 29 of them always goes Democrats, even if the Democrat is behind. Excuse me.
Yeah, they'll find the votes.
They'll find the votes. We saw that kind of corruption happen in California more times than what we can count. And I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
The Save America Act is not infallible, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have right now. Okay? So if you can't pass that, to your point, something that 84 to 85%, whatever the polls is somewhere, sometimes it's in the 70s, but sometimes it's as high as 90%. Whatever it is, it's a majority, okay? And if you can't do what at least 3/4 of this United States voting population wants you to do, then you can get the hell out of your position. You do not deserve to be the leader of either the House or the Senate. Mike Johnson, I keep talking about this, is doing this with a razor-thin majority in the House, which is much more chaotic than the Senate. Senate is arcane. The Senate is the retirement home, although there's some old-ass people in the House too. But the Senate is the retirement home. They move at a snail's pace. The House is doing their work. The Senate needs to get on board or get the heck out of the way.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Today is primary day in a lot of different states. We're going to talk about that and what you can expect when we come back. Good morning to everybody out there. We're in the middle. I guess we just started hour number 2, 6 past the hour. This is the Paul Harrell program here on Live from America, as well as Hometown TV. Want to give you guys a shout out. Those of you watching on cable, as well as the Paul Harrell program YouTube channel. We'll be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier. And when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Hey folks, welcome back. It is 10 past the hour. This is hour number 2 of the Paul Harrell program on this Tuesday morning. We're broadcasting here on Live from America TV. Make sure that you share the video wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Rumble, LFA, share the video across all your socials. We'd really appreciate it. And wherever you're watching, whatever platform, whether it's Rumble, YouTube, X, whatever it is, do all the things. depending on what the platform is, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, do all of the things. We would really very much appreciate it. So it is primary day. It is Tuesday across Florida, Alaska, and Wyoming today. Florida, Alaska, and Wyoming. Epoch Times has a pretty good breakdown of this, that voters in Florida, Alaska, and Wyoming are going to head to the polls today to cast their ballots in key primary races that could determine control of Congress. In California, there's a special election being held. Of course, that's just to replace Democrat Representative Eric Swalwell, who, by the way, just so you know, town hall with this article that I think we should definitely talk about for a second here. Holy hell, FBI docs showed evidence of Eric Swalwell taking illegal Chinese donations. Incredible stuff. We knew former Representative Eric Swalwell was screwing around with the Chinese honeypot. Now we have documents to prove it, all provided by the FBI. Even if Swalwell avoided having his gubernatorial bid derailed in California by the sexual misconduct and rape allegations, that's why he actually resigned. He wouldn't have served a full term with these new memos showing he allegedly accepted illegal donations with Christina Fang, a.k.a. Fang, as the source of these transactions. So Swalwell admitted to a physical relationship with Fang, with the FBI later dropping Swalwell from their probe and focusing solely on her activities. They even tried to recruit her, knowing she had ties to the Chinese intelligence. But anyway, yeah, so we know this guy, Chinese spy. He was sleeping with a Chinese spy, and then he took illegal money, campaign donations, from essentially sovereign wealth. I mean, that's what it gets down to. So that's why there's a special election in California today.
Right. Well, I'm going to apologize. I'm having some earbud, whatever these things are called, so that I can hear the show. Having some massive problems. One of them fell off, and it was underneath the table.
You mean the little rubber thing?
No, it wasn't even that. It was the whole thing fell off.
Okay.
So it was a problem.
How much were these things? We were amazed at how cheap they were. They were like we thought they were these things in our ears were so cheap. We thought they probably wouldn't even work, and yet they've worked great. Except apparently they come to pieces sometimes.
Yeah. Very distracting, I'm sure.
All right, so here, let's go to Florida. So in the Sunshine State today, Representative Byron Donalds, congressman from Florida, is the favorite to get the GOP nomination for governor. Donalds, who has been endorsed by President Trump, faces 9 other candidates in the primary, including investor James Fishback, Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, and former Florida House of Representatives Speaker Paul Renner. Donalds has campaigned on making Florida more affordable, fighting illegal immigration, improving infrastructure, preserving the environment, and stopping government waste. A central part of Fishback's platform is banning data centers in Florida. Data centers raise electricity bills, jeopardize our water supply, and crater property values in surrounding communities, his campaign says. Yeah. They consume enormous amounts of land, water, and power, and Floridians get nothing in return. Then on the Democratic side in Florida, you've got former Representative David Jolly, State Representative Dottie Joseph, and 4 other candidates. Jolly is a former Republican, and he's run on tackling property insurance costs.
He's investing a former Republican running as a Democrat
in public schools, reforming campaign finance and ethics rules, and reducing gun violence. The winner in November will succeed Governor Ron DeSantis. In addition to the gubernatorial contest, there are races in the House. This comes after Florida redrew its congressional map to give Republicans an advantage, following other states doing the same. The GOP primary in the 19th congressional district to succeed Donalds is competitive, as it includes 2 former out-of-state members of Congress, Madison Cawthorn and Chris Collins. Cawthorn represented North Carolina's 11th congressional district. Cawthorn was famous for saying that Washington, D.C. has sex parties, drug-fueled sex parties that he was invited to. And then when he said that, the Republicans, the Republican establishment primaried him, backed his primary opponent. He was thrown out of office. That's just something to think about. Just some context there. And then you've got Collins, his opponent now, held New York's 27th congressional district seat between 2013 to 2019. However, the apparent frontrunner in this race is Catalina Lauf, who worked in Trump's first administration and has drawn his endorsement. Her campaign issues include cutting wasteful spending, cracking down on illegal immigration, and championing the Make America Healthy Again movement. So that's Florida. Then you get one more over in the 20th. This is crazy. I can't believe that Wasserman Schultz is still a thing and she's still in politics. But in the 20th district of Florida, you've got the Cook Political Report says that it's solidly Democratic. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz is looking to stay in Congress by running in that district instead of her current 25th congressional district, which was redrawn to make it a toss-up. Wasserman Schultz faces 4 other candidates, blah, blah, blah. So then we get to that.
Hey, you know what? Wasserman Schultz there. One thing I'll say about her, man, she's incredibly good at trading stocks.
Yes, she is.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
There's an entire website where you can follow trades by members of Congress. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi was famously one of the ones that were on there, Ro Khanna, but Wasserman Schultz, big time. She was on, I forget which committee, but she had inside information into military spending on what we were doing, and she was buying all of these military suppliers, their stocks right before it was just going through the roof. And you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, you voted on something today, but you increased your amount of stock yesterday. Interesting. But anyway, there's so much corruption there.
That's Wasserman Schultz. And she was involved in we still don't have the right answers about the, is it the Arman or Arman brothers, those computer analysts or something did they have something to do with? We need to look that up before I speak on it, but it seems like that had something to do with the DNC hack or something. I can't remember exactly. Then we move to Alaska. This is my favorite story.
I'm done struggling with these.
Good grief!
Things.
What is going on?
If y'all are watching me on the camera and you can't listen to what Paul is saying, I so apologize.
Do you want to take the?
Yeah, screw it. Let's go to this.
All right, here. Let me turn these headphones down because they'll blast you out. Are they broken?
I think I just reassembled them incorrectly. And,
okay. Okay. All right. Well, get that man some headphones. All right, here we go. In Alaska, my favorite story. There are 2 men named Dan Sullivan running for Senate in the last frontier. Both are Republicans. Incumbent Senator Dan S. Sullivan and former U.S. Forest Service employee Dan J. Sullivan. Interestingly enough, our local Senate district in Arkansas, state Senate district, is Dan Sullivan.
And he's been on the show.
Before.
Great friend of the show.
And I really wanted to have him on. I haven't reached out to make this happen, but I wanted to cover this story. Dan Sullivan's challenging Dan Sullivan in Alaska. Here to talk more about that story is state senator from Arkansas, not Alaska, Dan Sullivan. And I guess what we would just ask him is, what's it like to be named Dan Sullivan?
Yeah, apparently.
The notable Democrat running for the seat is former Representative Mary Peltola, who occupied Alaska's at-large U.S. House seat from 2023 to 2025. Peltola was recruited by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to flip the seat and help Democrats take back the Senate. This race, which the Cook Political Report rates as a toss-up, could determine which party controls the upper congressional chamber.
Yeah.
12 Republicans are running for governor in Alaska.
Hey, just a second, let me say something else about the Dan Sullivan. So the issue there is Dan J. Sullivan is the non-incumbent.
Correct.
Okay, so there's multiple reports that Dan J. Sullivan is a Democrat plant.
Oh, really?
Right. That he is actually a Democrat and he is running as a Republican because he's running in Alaska, right? And so he's trying to win. And so that's what that motivation is. I think, honestly, if you believe it, and I believe conspiracy theories, we're usually right on all of this stuff, I think that Dan J. Sullivan was recruited simply because of his name and to knock off the incumbent there and put a wolf in sheep's clothing.
That may be the case. I don't know.
It's a Trojan horse.
I think most people can read in Alaska, and I think they'll see Senator Dan Sullivan on the ballot. I'm sure that's what it'll say, Senator Dan Sullivan on the ballot, and they'll vote for that guy. That's probably. Then we move to Wyoming. In Wyoming, the races to watch are for governor and U.S. Senate. The gubernatorial race to succeed Governor Mark Gordon, who is term limited, includes Republicans, Wyoming Superintendent Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder, State Senator Eric Barlow, retired U.S. Marine Corps Colonel Brent Bean, and rodeo production professional Kurt Blake. Trump has endorsed. I'm sorry, just based on all of that, it's either the Marine Colonel or the rodeo production professional. I bet they've got some real common sense takes. The Cook Political Report says the race is solid Republican, and then there's some other races there. Guaranteed that Republican side, Harriet Hagman, Wyoming, who was Trump's backing, she faces 4 other Republicans, but looks like it's a solidly red state.
Yeah, Wyoming's
district.
only going to send red. It's just who are you sending?
Then we got California, a special election in the Golden State. Who's going to serve the remainder of Eric Swalwell's term? We already talked about that. Then State Senator Aisha Wahab and Bay Area Rapid Transit Board President Melissa Hernandez, both Democrats, were the 2 top vote getters in the June 16th special primary to advance to the runoff. Wahab placed first in both the special primary and June 2nd primary. She and Hernandez will face off against each other in the fall. And, there you go. So whoever wins the special election will narrow the Republican majority in the House. Speaker Johnson will be able to lose only 2 Republicans on party line votes. So that's where we're at with that, folks. Those are the primaries that are happening today.
Yeah, I mean, this is just again, we're just continuing to see just these little dribbles here of, political season, which is upon us. I think it's interesting. I hope that we get more information about the RNC hosting something. They say it's going to be in Dallas. I looked at the dates of it. It's coming up very quickly. It's actually just in a few weeks. And, of course, we would love to go. We'd love to take the Paul Harrell program there remotely. I don't think schedules are going to allow us to do that or go there and do our show remotely, but it would be really cool. Certainly in the next the presidential election, we would love to be able to do that. So, anywho, I think that the Republicans are trying to build some momentum here. John Thune could build some ultimate momentum by actually passing and codifying some of these things. I don't want to be repetitive, but it's just very frustrating. And I think that would give Republicans a lot of wins to say, hey, I'm going to come to the polls. I don't like gas prices. I don't like this Iranian thing. I don't like that inflation is still high, but I'm coming to the polls because it's better than what we had, and I want to continue this. And I think we'll need those wins over the next couple of months, or it could very well be a bloodbath.
Yeah. Well said. So now it's time for, ladies and gentlemen, our next segment, which we like to call Ballot Bandits. Okay, so we brought you this story last week. It was either on Thursday or Friday of last week, where we played for you that I think it was Friday, that James O'Keefe clip where they went in and they used Minnesota's insane voucher law where a voter can show up and vouch for up to 8 of his buddies to vote that same day, that are not even registered to vote. They can just show up and vote because you got one registered guy. They don't even have to record what their names are. They don't even have to record or sign anything. They literally, all they mark is, well, how many people did he bring with him? 8 is the highest you can go. So up to 8 people.
Yeah.
One person.
And he was a Muslim guy named William Wallace.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. and no one's catching this stuff.
My name is William Wallace.
Yeah. Great accent. He did not look the part.
They may take our lives, but they will never take, but we will take your freedom. Sorry, that's more Indian.
And your 7-Eleven, apparently.
Yes.
Grape Slurpee.
Minnesota authorities, what was it Joe Biden said?
Oh, you can't go into a 7-Eleven without speaking
in a strong Indian accent.
Yeah. Listen, he ain't wrong.
He was right. He was right.
He ain't wrong.
Joe Biden was right about that. Minnesota authorities are now reviewing voting vouching stunt by conservative influencer from the local Fox affiliate KMSP. Howard Thompson says that Minnesota state officials say authorities are reviewing an outrageous and totally unacceptable stunt by a conservative influencer who impersonated other voters at Minneapolis polling sites.
He made people up
on primary day while dressed in an Islamic Najab? How do you say that? Nakab? I know what hijab, how that's spelled, but is it Nakab?
I don't know.
Nakab. We'll go with Nakab.
Who cares?
As part of an attempt to prove how easy it was to commit voter fraud in the state. In a YouTube video framed as an election integrity test.
It was as part of an attempt to prove how easy it is to commit voter fraud in here. As part of an attempt.
They successfully proved that it is very easy to commit voter fraud.
They proved it all right.
They proved it 100%. And by the way, they're saying these are conservative influencers instead of journalists. James O'Keefe is a journalist.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, he's an independent journalist. You may not like his style.
Yeah, he's literally doing what John Stossel made his career doing on
Absolutely.
ABC's 2020 when I was growing up. Like, a lot of people, I've had to realize this since I forgot a lot about my childhood, Rob, when it comes to, like, I got involved in sports and baseball, and, that just, like, consumed everything. But, like, when I was younger, I now remember that I would watch TGIF on ABC, whether it was every Friday, right? Full House, Family Matters, or whatever those shows were. Yeah, back in the day, Just the 10 of Us. I remember Just the 10 of Us. That was right. That was an early one. Anyway, so you watch that, and then what came on? Hugh Downs, Barbara Walters, 2020. After TGIF was over on Friday, and I would watch it. Yeah. Like, as a young kid, I would watch it, and I was like, oh, man, this is good. And I remember John Stossel. And what did John Stossel do? Undercover video all the time. All the time. Because he understood that people will say things and do things when they think they're in private that they otherwise wouldn't. It is a classic journalistic tactic that only now do no journalists do. They don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're just pissed off. That's all it is. You're pissed off that he's exposing this stuff, and you're calling him a conservative influencer. That's what James O'Keefe is? No.
Yeah.
No. He is an independent undercover journalist. And if you don't like it,
that's got a long career at this point. I mean,
at this point, yeah, you may not like his style and the goofiness and playing want to be a baller in his video. You may not like that, but that doesn't mean that he's not a journalist.
Yeah.
His whole goal is to expose this fraud, and he did so epically.
It says in a YouTube video framed as an election integrity test, conservative influencer Cameron Higbee documented his trip to a polling site in Minneapolis on primary day last Tuesday. In the video, Higbee, dressed head to toe in a niqab, which obscured his face and much of his entire body, went to polling sites and gave poll workers information for other voters, including a woman. Higbee also asked to take advantage of the state's vouching provision, which allows voters to vouch for others. The law is intended to allow for eligible voters who aren't properly registered to cast a vote on Election Day by allowing for a registered voter to confirm their residency. Minnesota Secretary of State says most of the time vouching is used by people who are registered to vote but have moved and haven't updated their address. Yeah, right, whatever. That's not true.
That is a lie and a half.
An election judge manual on the Secretary of State website states that judges are required to confirm the voucher is registered at the precinct and have them fill out a form. Voters are asked to provide a Minnesota driver's license or the last 4 digits of their Social Security number when they register. What happened? At first sight, Higbee is told that vouchees still needed to provide identification to register to vote. The vouching only allowed Higbee to affirm the person lived in the precinct. However, Higbee was told he could vote as long as he was already registered. It appeared Higbee made an excuse to leave the site before going through and obtaining the ballot and voting. So he left the site, did not vote. Workers at the second polling site, which appeared to be at Waite Park Elementary School, told him an ID wasn't required for the vouching, but the validity would be checked. The third site, the Pratt Community School, also told the group an ID wasn't needed for vouching process. Both sites told Higbee and James O'Keefe they could vouch for up to 8 other voters. So, big picture, Higbee partnered with James O'Keefe on the video, who is known for his past work with Project Veritas, a conservative journalism outlet that has faced scrutiny over misleading reports. So they lead with the influencer Higbee, and then they throw in, this was actually a work of undercover journalism towards the end. They bury that.
Yeah, they're burying it down. Let me throw this one at you, Paul. That 0.6% BS that he threw out, Scott Pressler did the numbers.
Oh, yeah, I
you pulled that?
Well, I skipped over that part.
Scott, the Minnesota Secretary of State, who is corrupt, obviously, but Scott Pressler pulled the numbers on the vouching program there in Minnesota. He said that in I think it was 2024, or he may have been talking about the most recent 2026, so forgive me on that one. But Scott Pressler said 5.5% of all votes cast were vouching. Okay, 5.5%. Now, I don't know if that number's accurate. I don't. But if it is, I just looked up what the margin was. 46% Donald Trump. Just under 51% Kamala Harris. And if my math is correct, that's about 5%.
Wow.
Very interesting. If this vouching program didn't
because
exist,
we know because we can say, based on our intuition, that all of the vouching votes, or 99% of those that used the vouching system in that election, were voting for Kamala Extract Harris. Shout out to all of our Battlestar Galactica fans. If you catch that reference, you know who you are.
And no one did.
Sorry.
Listen,
no one ever got that.
This?
I was like, Kamala Extract.
You think about Scott, Elk Orson here mentions in our chat, Scott Pressler is another blessing. Absolutely. When you think about Scott Pressler is a long-haired, 6'4" gay man who is working harder for the conservative movement in the United States than our own Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah.
Tell me how that makes sense, folks.
Yeah.
And Scott Pressler has put all of these people on his radar. He knows exactly when your next primary is. When you're up your next cycle, he'll know the next time you can be primaried. And you think that old John Thune's not going to get a good primary challenge? Mm-hmm. Scott Pressler's going to make damn sure he gets one. And I would put my money on Scott Pressler because I think that's what happened in Texas with Cornyn. We see what he's done in Pennsylvania. They just threw out a bunch of fraudulent votes there on the voter registration. That stuff that they're catching, how much are they not catching? I don't know why Scott Pressler is not given a higher position and with a more why is he not the RNC co-chair or something like that?
No, they're not going to do that.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to put a gay man up there. But let me just tell you,
No. I think they would. I don't think it's that he's gay. I just think that it's
because he's not controllable.
He doesn't like rhinos.
Well, that's true.
I think
there's a bunch there.
I think the RNC's put plenty of gay people in positions of power.
Well, I'm just maybe it's a bad example, but I'm just saying he needs some position of power, or at the very least, he needs funding for what he's doing. If you want to leave him where he's at, give him funding so that he can 10x his efforts.
So Higbee responds to this investigation that they're now conducting. Quote, I didn't actually vote. I just showed up and tested the system, but they were going to allow me to vote just with the first, last, and address. And actually at one of the polling locations where they told me that I didn't need an ID for myself or the 8 other people that I was vouching for, they didn't even ask for my address. All they asked for was first and last, and they couldn't see my face. They had physically no way of verifying that I was or was not that person. As far as the investigation, Higbee said, I cannot believe that they actually are threatening me now. I'll give it to them. They're veiled threats. They're veiled threats to be sure. He didn't say, I'm going to throw this guy in jail and throw away the key. He said, law enforcement are investigating. This is like the top guy in the state under the governor. This is the Marco Rubio of Minnesota. He's a Secretary of State. He said law enforcement are investigating this guy's actions. He's put himself in jeopardy. He called what I did misconduct, and then he said the voters deserve better, to which I can't disagree with him on. They deserve to have faith in their elections. Yeah. Stop trying to throw journalists in jail for proving that you have intentionally created a system that allows for fraud and cheating. Why don't we stop that? There is no excuse. And then Higbee went on to advocate for the SAVE Act. Somebody told me something the other day, because I think Donald Trump was in a phone interview on, is it Stitchfield or one of those shows, and the host said something like, hey, are you just going to declare a national emergency and use your powers as president to secure our election? And Trump indicated that he's thought about it or something. I can't remember exactly what, but he did not shut the idea down. Mm-hmm. Then I have read other places that if Donald Trump were to do that, he needs to firmly establish that the Senate is not going to take any action. And apparently, if the Senate does not take action by October 15th and pass this thing, that is when you could see some form of executive order. Now, the question I would have is, October 15th, executive order, well, barring military precision, barring literally like some form of like emergency, like, hey, like a real emergency, not just declaring it, but then actually saying we're going to secure our elections.
But they're going to immediately run to court and get a stay on it.
I know.
And you're
I know they would.
3 weeks
and they'd,
to get
and,
that overturned.
But I know.
Yeah, I'm just
telling you what could be. It could be a pretty
interesting
election season.
Yeah, it could be. And I really feel like, unfortunately, the window to get the SAVE Act passed and the window to get the SAVE Act passed and actually get it implemented before the November elections has passed. And that right there is the most frustrating thing of all. When people say that we have squandered 2 years in power, that's the kind of stuff that they're talking about. When, like I said, when 80% of the country wants it.
Yeah, man. I agree. Let's see. What is this next story? I wanted to make sure we talked about something. Okay. So the next segment that we have up for today, Fourth Amendment funeral. Let's go. All right, so for this segment on Fourth Amendment funeral, we have a flashback tweet, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. Do you remember when CNN said this over on X, which would have been Twitter at that time, April 10th of 2020, when we are in the throes of the COVID insanity, or really just kind of approaching the zenith of it?
Yeah.
CNN wrote, Kentucky will record license plates of those who show up to any mass gatherings, such as church services, and will provide that info to local health departments, who will in turn order those individuals to be quarantined for 14 days. Governor Andy Beshear says, the Democrat governor, Andy Beshears. We remember this.
Yeah.
And this was before we had flock cameras everywhere.
Yeah, Beshear is a Democrat in a blue state known as Kentucky. Now, obviously,
it's more of a purple state. I mean, they elect Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. So,
well, they do, but it's really hard. It's really hard for a Democrat to get elected if they are not if they're not a Joe Manchin type person who is right. Because West Virginia is obviously red, but they've been sending Joe Manchin, until he retired. But anyway. And so what I've heard is him on a list from, the few sensible Democrats that exist that say, hey, this is what we got. This is what we need. We need a guy that is a Democrat that can, win in these red areas, or at least, as you would say, a purple area. And, the Josh Shapiros of the world, that's what they're needing. And so I hope that they don't get behind people like that. I hope that they get behind the AOCs and all of that stuff.
I totally agree, because that would be a path to the other way would be an easier path to the White House.
If an Andy Beshear and a Josh Shapiro is the ticket, which the Democrats will never do. We were talking about this off air because Josh Shapiro being a Jew and Andy Beshear, like, this just two white guys, right? But they're not going to do this, the Democrats, and I hope that they don't. But if they do, this needs to be played in full repeat everywhere here.
Yeah,
because this is what we've been talking about when we're talking about this Fourth Amendment funeral.
And we've covered these stories about people being falsely accused by flock cameras. Flock cameras getting it wrong. I've now seen several stories in the last few weeks where the cops pulled somebody over. We had the one on the interstate where that was like somebody could have easily gotten killed.
Yeah. Got him out.
There's been a few more where
got him out at gunpoint.
Man, I'm sorry, the flock camera flagged you guys as being being felons or whatever.
Yeah.
Then we have just to remind you that people do this as well. Florida woman wrongfully arrested for deadly hit and run is now sharing her experience, according to Fox 35 Orlando. Her name's Lindsay Isaacs. A Florida woman who spent nearly 2 weeks in jail after being wrongfully accused in a fatal hit-and-run crash, has filed a civil lawsuit against the Florida Highway Patrol and says she wants answers about how the mistake occurred. Lindsay Isaacs was arrested and charged in connection with a crash that killed Joaquin Dano, Jorge Salinas, and Nancy Salinas. Authorities seized her vehicle and months later instructed her to surrender on a hit-and-run charge. The backstory: troopers showed up first at Lindsay Isaacs' parents' house and told them she'd been involved in a fatal crash. Her parents thought she'd been killed. Eventually, they learned she was accused of causing the crash. Florida Highway Patrol took Lindsay's car that night. As the months went on, her stress built. She told Fox 35's Marie Ettinger she had to leave her job, and in April, the FHP told her she had to turn herself in. They were arresting her for a hit-and-run that took the lives of those 3 people I just mentioned. Isaac spent 13 days in survival mode, housed with people accused of horrific crimes. She herself was falsely accused of something horrific. Isaacs described her experience saying people were unkind. The cell was cold. The lights were kept on all night, encouraging her head to spin and her worst thoughts to take over. I used my Bible as a pillow, and I put the blanket over my head to get the light out of my eyes, and I would just literally cry myself to sleep every night. Her attorney went to the state attorney's office and begged them to take another look at the case. They dropped the charges, let her go, and then arrested Elisa Montalvo for the crash instead. So what's about the mix-up? The judge denied Elisa Montalvo bond, saying evidence against her is staggering and her alleged attempts to hide the crimes are concerning too. So how did Lindsay wind up arrested for this? It's a burning question that Lindsay and her attorneys say they want answers. They disgrace their victims in the case by not doing proper investigation, and that needs to change. So that's the question here. We don't know how exactly did they go arrest this girl and keep her in jail for 2 weeks and then figured out they had the wrong person. We don't know. Were flock cameras involved in the wrongful arrest of this woman? That's the question that we have today.
You know, and obviously she's got a lawsuit that she is going to be filing, and what I read, I don't know if this is true, but that the state of Florida limits that to $2 million. That's all you're eligible to receive if you sue based off of police what's the word I'm looking for? But regardless, if
misconduct,
if they misconduct, and on this one, even from the judicial here, right, when you have a judge, but you understand, and that's why I always just say is anytime that there is an arrest, please take that with a grain of salt, for the simple fact that all that means is that the prosecution, based off of evidence from the police, have issued a warrant for the arrest, and the arrest has happened. That the defense has said nothing. So the police officers could have gotten it wrong. That means that the prosecutor got it wrong, which means that the judge denying the bond got it wrong, because they're only seeing one side. You're not going over your guilt or innocence. That's your day in court. And so just anytime you see those arrests being posted and goes around like wildfire, just take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, with this woman, her reputation, can she ever fully get it back? Because when you hear that the charges are dropped and that she's filing a lawsuit and all of that stuff, is it going to be as massively covered as they covered this we've got a killer on the run?
Yeah.
Because we've got 3 dead people. We've got 3 dead people here by a person recklessly driving and causing this and hitting and run and committing this felony. And probably going to spend a good chunk of their life in prison when they're convicted. Yeah, how many people saw that but won't see this? Okay, wrongfully accused, lawsuit, all of that stuff. That big, terrible, gruesome headline got a lot more coverage than this is going to get. So how much money can you put on a person's reputation?
That's a great point.
And
juries have been debating that for a long time.
Well, and we're seeing this over and over with these flock cameras. I don't know if you pulled that other story, but there's so many examples, and we've talked about the one where you're getting somebody out on the interstate at gunpoint, and I'm not talking about pistols, man. This was like the SWAT team style guns here. They've got these big. I don't know what all police officers carry, but regardless, they had these big long guns, like because that was a murder suspect. that was on the run, right? And then we see another one there where it falsely identified a vehicle that had been stolen, and they're putting these people in jail and they have to prove their innocence. How do you get that reputation back? And that's the problem with these flock cameras. There's also a recent update, Paul. I don't know if you saw this one, that these flock cameras it's not just scanning your car. It's not just scanning your license plate. The flock cameras, given the new recent update that they have the ability to get your unique Bluetooth ID from your digital devices, which means they can then track you no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks, don't sit here and tell me that police officers aren't using this. We're seeing countless examples of police officers misusing flock cameras. There was a woman, police officer, and I think that was down in Florida too. She was illegally logging in to these videos and following her husband's ex-wife.
I saw that.
Yeah. And had looked up her location, was following her like 35 times. She was actually fired and arrested.
Yep.
Thank goodness, because they're doing the right thing.
Well, it just shows you that people are going to abuse it.
Well, sure, but how many people are not getting caught?
Yeah.
How many police officers doing that right now? How many police officers checking the flock camera to see if their wife is getting some booty on the side, right? Like, how many of that is happening? How many times are they scanning our computers and phones that are just driving through there? And now I don't know if they can scan for your Bluetooth ID. We're one step away from knowing your entire search history. There's literally no privacy. We know that there's no privacy on these things anyway.
Right.
But regardless, what's to keep them from bank account numbers? They scan your computer. They get your bank account numbers. They get your password. They get all of that stuff. And then that stuff ends up in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
Folks, when people talk about a slippery slope, this is the Clark Griswold in Christmas Vacation on that shield that he has used this industrial thing on.
Are you the one working on that non-nutritive cereal varnish?
There you go. And this is not a slippery slope. This is Clark Griswold flying down there with his sled on fire.
Yeah, it's the wrong product, by the way. The non-nutritive cereal varnish was earlier in the show. I can't remember what he calls
non-nutritive cereal varnish.
So many things.
So many good ones.
So many things in there. If you pay attention, you're like non-nutritive cereal. It's like it coats the cereal. The milk doesn't penetrate it.
One thing that I said so that you still get crunchy cereal, right? And one thing is, I didn't notice this, but when Bethany, Aunt Bethany, don't push me down, Clark.
Yeah.
When she's saying Grace, say the blessing,
right? The blessing.
Grace died 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, when she says it, or what does she do? She says the Pledge of Allegiance,
right?
But she doesn't say under God. Have you ever noticed that?
Right, and that's because they,
because her mind was before it was added.
It was added. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like how accurate that
and
detail is.
And that actress was who played the original Betty.
Yeah, Betty Boop.
Betty Boop, yeah.
Betty Boop.
It's crazy.
Anyway.
All right. Real quick, we're going to have even more eyes in the sky and even more opportunity to surveil us, where the line between corporate and government is going to get even more just non-existent. It's going away. Uber is now partnering with Zipline. Zipline is a company that cut its teeth using drones to get medicine to third world countries in Africa. But they're now partnering with Uber. They want 1 million daily drone deliveries of food. So Uber Eats, instead of having to wait 20 minutes for your McDonald's, they can get it to you in 5 or 10.
Yeah.
This is the convenience factor, but it just means thousands upon thousands of drones are going to be in the sky
with cameras,
all of them cameras, and our rights are going to be destroyed because of this. And it's only a matter of time.
Well, I can see anybody that's
Batman, The Dark Knight. Okay, Batman, The Dark Knight. They're trying to find where the Joker's at. So what does he do? He makes every cell phone in Gotham, and one of the characters, Morgan Freeman's character, is like, I'll do this. But
this is my resignation.
This is my resignation. As long as this equipment stays here, we cannot do this to people's privacy. And of course, at the end, he destroys it. It's destroyed. Right. The technology's destroyed. Somebody says compare that to the latest Spider-Man movie, which is all about mass surveillance, which I haven't seen yet, and how it's just celebrated. Like, and it's not. It's literally conditioning people. Is what I read, to accept the mass surveillance as a good thing.
Sure, it's like No one would do that. No one would destroy this most powerful tool in the world. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, at the end of Harry Potter, he gets a hold of the Elder Wand, right? It's his.
Yeah,
it's Harry Potter's,
yes,
and it's the most powerful wand in the world. What's he do? He breaks it in half and throws it over because no one should have that much power. Guys, that's movies. This stuff is not going to happen in real life.
Yeah.
As this power continues to grow, they're going to use it for some good. Absolutely. Absolutely it'll be used for good. But at what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost are we going to lose everything? Are these flock cameras going to be scanning inside of our house to see
on the 6G? They say the 6G is going to be incredible what it can do.
Taking video of my wife getting out of the shower or something like that. At what point do we say no? At what point do we say this is not America? Wake up, people! And flock cameras are just one of
the beginning
of these surveillance states agendas that is being put in place, and the people in power will corrupt themselves with the massive power they have.
Well, and if you want to say, well, that's crazy, it'll never get that bad. Think about how we never thought COVID would get as bad as it is.
Oh.
There is still a great what would you call it, a post-mortem being done on what happened during COVID. And Adam Carolla, talk show host Adam Carolla, is getting flack now from Chris Cuomo, and he is pushing back. Listen to this.
I got a text from Chris Cuomo the other day because I retweeted one of his bad looks.
This is great.
And he's like, what's up, bro? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just retweeting what you said. Like, listen, everybody. You said a lot of stupid shit during COVID, and I got a lot of shit foisted on me thanks to people like you saying a lot of stupid shit. And so did Aaron Rodgers. So now it's 5 years later. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that it's being relitigated. Perhaps you should have shut the fuck back then.
You missed it, but close.
Yeah, whatever. So here's the deal. This is it. I know a lot of people don't like that it's being relitigated. It needs to be relitigated. People need to be held to account, and they either need to repent and say, man, I was wrong, and then maybe we could trust you again. Or if you refuse to say that you were wrong and you messed up, we should not listen to you again.
Yeah.
For example, here is a pastor that I've never heard of before who goes by the name Reverend Adam Hamilton. And this was what a lot of Christians got as they were closing their churches, listening to the government. Then when the vaccine came, in light of what we now know, what Fauci knew with 82% miscarriage rate out of pregnant women the first trimester, this is what parishioners were hearing.
Weren't even allowed to have church outside, 6 feet apart.
It's insane.
Couldn't even do that.
So again, if these people have repented, great, but it's perfectly reasonable to go and be like, hey, you were telling us all of this stuff that is just not true. Listen.
2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, look, I'm just going to reiterate, if you haven't been vaccinated, I want to encourage you as an act of discipleship to be vaccinated, to protect other people, unless you have some reason, some really good health reason why you can't. This is about loving our neighbor. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, look, I'm just going to...
This is about loving our neighbor. And then this was the message dated September 29th, 2021 that was delivered to the Church of the Resurrection Leadership Institute. Quote, wearing a mask when gathered with others for their protection is another expression of Christian love. Churches all across the country had leaders that were telling their people this.
Yeah.
And some of them have said I was wrong. Some of them have. But a lot of them, I think, have just trying to act like that it never happened.
Yeah.
And for the sake of your ministry moving forward, you need to come to grips with the fact that you are believing lies. Even if you were to say, hey, I was deceived, that's fine. You're still responsible for perpetuating the deception and your lack of wisdom for not understanding what you were doing. There's a lot of pew sitters out there that thought, man, I thought we were willing to die. I thought we were willing to die. Like if they said we're not going to meet, like in China, they show up anyway, and many of them get killed. What happens in Sudan or wherever, they'll show up anyway, knowing that they may get killed that day to worship the Lord.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were about. It's like, no, there's a respiratory virus. We're not going to meet. We're going to listen to the government, and we're going to shame you and claim that if you want to do otherwise, you're failing to love your neighbor. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. You're actually putting love your neighbor ahead of love the Lord your God with all your heart, might. You're getting the two greatest commandments. You're reversing the order, and that's what we all live through, man. Not just with our politicians, but with our so-called, clergy leadership as well. And there has to be an accounting for it 6 years later.
Well, I just look at it and just try to say, well, what did the rioters do? What did the rioters do? They said, I don't care if they are going to, if I'm going to get arrested.
You mean Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, all of the rioters that were working with the George Floyd crap, all of that stuff, they didn't care, but there was no threat of arrest to them for being outside during COVID, okay? They just didn't care. And I look at it and say, why did us, like, so the church that I go to on average will have about 3,000 people go to that church, in a given Sunday morning between all the services and all of that stuff. I think that's correct. About around 3,000 people. What are they going to do? Are they going to show up with paddy wagons there and just arrest everyone? Is that what they're going to do? Okay, and that's what the rioters knew. They were like, well, they can't arrest us all.
Right.
They're not going to arrest any of us, by the way. They're not going to because the governor of their blue state has told them, these police officers, to stand down. It's the summer of love, folks. All of that. But Christians were trying to follow the law. And, Paul, you said it. Countless times in the Bible, we have seen Christians stand up for just about every disciple was murdered.
Daniel chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were told to, that's the way I felt. I felt like the church was being told to bow down and worship. Wear your political symbol, wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart. And, I think most of us gave the government the benefit of the doubt for about those 2 weeks. And then we started being like, something's not right. Something's not right.
Yeah, you're just like, wait a minute. You started putting all these things in. You're like, you want me to wear a mask? I don't think this is protecting anything. There was one time I was going to pick up some pizza, and they required that you wear a mask into Domino's, And I had a baby bib that was like for my daughter's doll. It wasn't even a real like baby bib. It was just one for a doll. And I got it, and I lapped it over my ears, and it was totally hanging loose here.
Yep.
I mean, it was just whatever, but I walked in, I got my pizza. I was allowed to because I had this. And it was like, this is protecting nothing.
Yeah, I actually picked up on that as well. Back in the early days when I wore the mask, you could wear the mask, or you could just, if you didn't have a mask, you would get looks. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh,
I noticed that
you're evil.
I noticed that the looks went away, even if you just had the mask hanging off your ear but not even on.
Sure.
Oh, people were fine with you then. A lot of people were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, they just wanted to know that you were down with the cause. So even the fact that you had a mask that was being improperly worn made people at ease. We were trying to eat each other, folks, and our leaders totally were deceived along with us, probably because they have from a Christian perspective at least, a much higher fear of death than they should. And again, the Bible says to die is to gain. And if you're afraid to live, then you're already dead.
Well said. I mean, when you're getting trespassed from Walmart because you're not wearing a mask in there, and it's just the most ridiculous thing, and the police are asking, well, do you have a medical condition? That's my personal health information. I'm not going to tell you. Well, that's not good enough. You're being trespassed. We just saw so much of this stuff. The tip lines is things that we've talked about ad nauseum, and you had people like this Reverend Adam Hamilton standing up there and saying that it's an act of discipleship.
Meaning, if you don't do this, then you're not loving and you're not discipling. You're basically outside the camp.
I just won't ever be able to forgive anybody for that.
I can forgive them. They just need to actually admit.
Well,
it
if they come to, I was wrong. I was wrong. But that's not what Chris Cuomo's does.
No,
he's not doing that.
Folks, that's the show. We're going to hand it off. Next up, we've got Live from America with Jeremy Harrell. We thank you so much for being with us. We want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. We will see you guys tomorrow. God bless.